Have you heard of one Humpty Dumpty? How he fell with a roll and a rumble, and fell off like Ladal of a crumple by the butt of the magazine wall.
Welcome to James Joyce's divine and delirious comedy, Finnegans Wake. In this episode, number 4, we'll hear Irish-Canadian actor and my good friend and colleague Richard Harte reading pages 13 to 19 of Joyce's last novel, which will include the dialogue of Mutt and Jute. I'm Adam Seelig, the director of the reading you'll soon hear. Will you be in Dublin this Sunday, June 16th? If so, come to the James Joyce Centre where the Bloomsday Film Festival will be screening One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake, chapters 1 and 2, screening all day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you're in Toronto on Bloomsday, June the 16th, come see what our friends at Toronto Bloomsday Festival are doing to celebrate the day Leopold Bloom wandered the city of Dublin in Joyce's second best book, Ulysses. Details for both festivals are online. Wherever you may be, happy Bloomsday. Finnegans Wake is a production of One Little Goat Theatre Company. For the next 5 years, One Little Goat will film and record all 17 chapters, roughly 30 hours, of Joyce's Finnegans Wake before live audiences in various locations, screening and releasing them along the way with the aim of completing the entire book in time for its 90th birthday, May the 4th of 2029. One Little Goat Theatre Company is an official charity in Canada and the United States. If you'd like to support our work, please visit us online at www.onelittlegoat.org to make a charitable donation. And if monetary support is not an option, you can still help this podcast by rating and reviewing it and by spreading the word. To get in touch, you'll find our email address on the One Little Goat Theatre Company website, and we'd love to hear from you. A couple of years ago, on my way in to see the Robert Hoole retrospective at the Art Gallery of Ontario in Toronto, the same show, incidentally, that's been at the Smithsonian Museum of Indigenous Americans in Washington, D.C. for the past year, I encountered this quote from Hoole himself printed on a tall banner near the entrance to the exhibition. Quote, "The lack of a linear chronology in myth, storytelling, and dreams, the interchangeable grammar and the interchangeability of perception is what makes wonderful rhythmical patterns of thought in the oral traditions of the ancient ones." Close quote. While Hoole, an Anishinaabe artist from Sandi Bay First Nation, was referring to indigenous oral traditions, his brilliant statement here could just as easily describe Finnegans Wake, almost to the point of providing a stylistic checklist for Joyce's dream novel. Lack of linear chronology? Check. Myth, storytelling, dreams? Check. Interchangeable grammar and perception? Check again, to which I'll add the interchangeability of character, which we'll get into in a moment. Wonderful rhythmical patterns of thought? Check for sure. Oral traditions of the ancient ones? Joyce encouraged reading the Wake aloud, and for all its modernism, the Wake regularly draws on ancient languages and age-old texts, many of which are composites of oral traditions, from the Egyptian Book of the Dead to the Hebrew Bible to 1001 Nights of Scheherazade, or as the Wake puts it, quote, 1001 stories all told of the same, close quote. In today's excerpt from Richard Harte's reading of Finnegans Wake, Chapter 1, pages 13 to 19, we're going to encounter all of the elements in Hoole's statement on ancient storytelling because the Wake is a, quote, meander tale, close quote, a meandering, non-linear story stretching as far back as Neanderthal days. In similarly non-linear fashion, I'm going to jump a little ahead in today's excerpt to the Wake's first dialogue, a dialogue conducted by a kind of vaudevillian duo of prehistory named Mutt and Jute. It will come as no surprise that, as someone who makes plays, I love dialogue. So I naturally gravitate to Mutt and Jute's exchange, which takes its tone from Mutt and Jeff, the widely syndicated American comic strip that began in 1907. Joyce's Mutt and Jute initially seemed to divide into distinct identities, a la Mutt and Jeff, Laurel and Hardy, tall and short, slim and fat, etc. Initially, Mutt strikes me as an extroverted, talkative Irish character, and Jute as an introverted, taciturn Scandinavian, especially given that a Jute is someone from Jutland, or Jylland in Danish, a peninsula stretching up into Denmark. With Mutt as a native Irishman and Jute as a Dane, potentially of the invading Viking variety, we have two men on opposite sides of the bloody historical battle that informs their conversation, the Battle of Clontarf, or in Wake speak, dung turf, in the year 1014, when the last High King of Ireland, Brian Boru, defeated the Danish occupying army. Mutt initiates the dialogue with the strange man he sees before him by asking what language the stranger speaks: Danish, Norwegian, English, Anglo-Saxon? Given no affirmatives, Mutt concludes that the stranger is clearly a Jute. How on earth Mutt reaches that conclusion is beyond me. Maybe he's putting on an act in an effort to get to know the stranger. As part of that act, he suggests they swap hats and have a chat. But in the process of hat swapping, it's hard not to picture those hats as the iconic bowlers of Laurel and Hardy. They also seem to have swapped identities. Now the character formerly known as Mutt is Jute, or Jutta as he pronounces it with a newfound Scandinavian inflection, and Jute is Mutt. Jute, or Jutta, now is the talkative one and Mutt the taciturn, until the conversational tide shifts and Mutt becomes the talkative one with only occasional comments from Jute. As Dennis Rose puts it, Jute had earlier complained that Mutt was almost inaudible to him. He now insists that he can barely understand a single word from start to finish in Mutt's patois, which in Wake speak becomes patwat. Joyce has swapped and confused Mutt and Jute's identities from the moment they encounter. Going back to Robert Hoole's observation on interchangeable grammar and perception, which applies so well to Mutt and Jute's dialogue, the Wake adds one more interchangeability: the interchangeability of character. So not only is the Wake radically dismantling the norms of narrative fiction and how a book should be, it's also dismantling the norms of drama and how a character should act. We could say that rather than being three-dimensional characters, as Joyce's characters very much are in his previous books, the characters of Finnegans Wake are four-dimensional, stretching across the dimension of time. The scene between Mutt and Jute, for example, takes place as much in the Stone Age as it does in the year 1014, as it does in a 20th century newspaper comic strip like Mutt and Jeff. Four-dimensional characters, characters capable of temporal simultaneity. I like the idea, and it brings to mind the recent movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it may prove useful when we talk more about Earwicker, the main character of Chapter 2. At this moment, I prefer to think of the characters in the Wake, starting with Mutt and Jute, as characterless. That may sound pejorative, but I mean it in the way Swedish playwright August Strindberg used the term when writing about his play Miss Julie. Quote, "I have made my people..." I love that he calls them people, not characters. "I have made my people somewhat characterless." Character became the middle-class term for the automaton, one whose nature had become fixed or who had adapted himself to a particular role in life. In fact, a person who had ceased to grow was called a character, while one continuing to develop was called characterless, in a derogatory sense, of course, because he was so hard to catch, classify, and keep track of. A character came to signify a man fixed and finished. Close quote. The characterlessness of Mutt and Jute and the malleability of their identities show Joyce undermining character as fixed and finished, much as he undermines the entire novel as fixed and finished. The original title of Finnegans Wake was Work in Progress. The novel and its characters are never finished. They are always in a state and stage of becoming, and in Mutt and Jute's case, they go so far as to become each other. Maybe that's because the exchange of both words and bodies between Mutt and Jute is ultimately, as John Gordon suggests, an exchange between me and you, the internal dialogue of a dreamer. I'm also happy to make the case that you could easily be a synonym for me based on an expression that one of my kids would use when he was a toddler. Instead of saying, "tell me," when he wanted to know something, he would say, "tell you." At one point, I thought I would try to correct this pronoun mix-up, only to realize that it's impossible to explain to an early speaker the difference between me and you without confusion. In our early years, you is me, and me, you. Just as in prehistoric years, Mutt is Jute and Jute Mutt, and the difference we see between them could be the two complementary or opposing parts of one person. There is no me without you, no Mutt without Jute, no Laurel without Hardy, and if we move beyond Joyce's lifetime to Samuel Beckett's play Waiting for Godot, there is no Vladimir without Estragon. and like Mutt and Jute before them, Beckett's Dee and Gogo exchange hats. I'll add that in Beckett's later play Ohio Impromptu, which incidentally recalls his days as Joyce's amanuensis, he further dissolved the distinction between two characters on stage by placing only one hat between them. Though Mutt and Jute start out Irish and Danish, respectively, they end up wearing each other's hat, confused. Perhaps more conjoined than confused, given that Scandinavian genetics have been part of Irish ancestry since Vikings first invaded the Emerald Isle over 1,000 years ago. There is no such thing as a pure identity, or, as Finnegans Wake puts it a few lines after Mutt and Jute's dialogue, miscegenations on miscegenations. People, be they individuals or nations, are mixed up with and within each other. The merging of character, the dissolving of distinctions, the characterlessness is deliberate. It's time to go back a few pages now and mention a few more things in today's reading. It opens with the word and number 4, introducing us to 4 old historians, here referred to as Mammon Lugus, an acronym for the 4 Gospels of Christianity, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These 4 also personify the 4 provinces of Ireland, Ulster, Leinster, Munster, Connaught. We'll meet these 4 men again in various iterations throughout the novel. Woven into the same paragraph are the 4 seasons represented by Jewish months of the year, the month of Adar for winter, Nisan for spring, Tammuz for summer, and Malcheshvan for fall. And celebrating fall, the paragraph closes with the name of the Jewish harvesting festival, Sukkot. The 4 historians share 4 historical dates with us about bloody wars in Dublin. The first is 1132 AD. The second is half of 1132, or 566 AD. The third is 566 AD again. And the fourth, 1132 AD again. In other words, the dates fall and rise again, the central theme and motion of Finnegans Wake. What to make of these dates/numbers, especially 1132, which recurs throughout the Wake? William Tyndall tells us little of historical note happened in 1132, excepting, I suppose, the usual bloody wars in Dublin. So he focuses on the number itself, separating 1132 into 2 parts. 11, which he interprets as rising, and which I understand as 11 elevating, and 32, which he interprets as falling, thanks to Galileo's observation that objects fall at a rate of 32 feet per second per second. So here again we have the central theme and motion of Finnegans Wake with rise of 11 and fall of 32. Tyndall also points out 32 counties in Ireland, and he adds more ingenious meanings for the numbers, which I'll include in the transcript of this podcast posted on One Little Goat's website. Roland McHugh notes the death of legendary Irish hunter, warrior, poet Finn McCool was in the year 283, according to the chronicles of Irish history known as the Annals of the Four Masters. And 283 times 4 equals 1132. Richard and I like to see this recurring motif of 1132 throughout the Wake as individual digits, 1, 1, 3, and 2, with each digit representing a part in the alleged sin that takes place in Phoenix Park, which we'll hear more about in Chapter 2. 1 for Earwicker, another 1 for the cad, 3 for the soldiers, 2 for the girls peeing in the bushes. All in all, the historical record is unclear, the Wake explains, because, quote, the copyist must have fled with his scroll, close quote, as he was frightened by an elk or a bolt of lightning. Then the text offers a peaceful post-war passage that includes one of my favorite phrases in the book, quote, lift we our ears, eyes of the darkness, close quote. And it goes on to describe the tulips and twilight in Rush, a town in Dublin County that has particular resonance for our reader, Richard Harte, because it's where he and his family are from. This is where Mutt and Jute come in, whose dialogue, for all its vaudevillian shtick, conveys the consequences of war. Quote, now are all tombed to the mound, close quote. And then a variation on ashes to ashes, dust to dust, which is transformed by the ever-irreverent Wake into, quote, erd from erd. Erde being earth in German, and merde being shit in French, or earth from shit. Not exactly the kind of phrase you'd want to hear at someone's funeral. The last paragraph in today's reading invites us to examine more closely the ancient mound of earth or shit before us. I'm also remembering the tip or dump from Kate's Musey room tour a few pages earlier. We're encouraged to read these ruins or mysterious runes if we are, quote, absent-minded, close quote, spelled A-B-C-E-D minded, and we're urged to bring ourselves closer to, quote, this aleph bed, close quote, a word that includes alphabet, aleph bet, the name of the Hebrew alphabet, God's Muslim name Allah, and suggestions of a natural bed, be it of flowers or of a river run of words. Richard Harte's reading of Finnegans Wake Chapter 1 was shot and recorded in 2022 in my home in Toronto with a small audience. It premiered at the Toronto Irish Film Festival, European Union Film Festival, and Bloomsday Film Festival at the James Joyce Centre in Dublin. And now it's time to welcome you all back into my home for Richard's continued reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, page 13, line 20, to page 19, line 19 in Chapter 1.
4 things, therefore, saith our hereditary Mamelugus in his grand old Historiorum, wrote near Boriorum. Bluest book and Boilia's annals. FT and Differnarski near Sal fail till heather smoking cloudweed airs Isle Salpal. And here now they are, the fear of them, Teetotities, unum adar. A bulbin bosser mounted up an alderman, aye. Doom, Nizam, a shoe on a poor old woman, aho. Trium, Tammuz, an aborn maid, a bride to be deserted, adir, Codlibus, Marches Van, a pen no weightier nor a Paul post, and so, and all, so cough. So how idlers whine, turning pages on pages, as innocents rhythmically play pop-I-anti-pop, the leaves of the living and the bulk of the deeds. Annals of themselves, time in the cycles of events grand and national, bringing facile wise to pass out. 1132 AD. Men like to answer them, it's wandering upon a great wide wall fisk which lay in a runnel. Blubby wears a patablanium. 566 AD. On Balfire's night of this year, after a deluge, a crone that had a wicked kish for to hail dead turds from the bog, looked under the glare of her kish as she ran for to satisfy her curiosity, and be me soul, but she found herself sacked for the swart goody quick and shown, and small elegant brogues, so rich in sweat. Bloody works at Hurtlesford. Silent. 566 AD. At this time it fell out that a brazen locked damsel grieved, so bloodlassless, because that puppet her minion was ravished over by the ogre Perumpius Pius. Bloody wars in Ballyahacleabally. 1132 AD. 2 sons at an hour were born until a good man and his hag. These sons called themselves Caddy and Primus. Primus was a santry man and drilled all decent people. Caddy went to Winehouse and wrote a piece of farce. Blotty words for Dublin. Somewhere, apparently, in the Gin-and-Go gap between Antediluvius and Anna Dominant, the copyist must have fled with his scroll. The Billy Flood rose, or an elk charged him, or the soul took world right from the excelsis most imperium, both in some earth spake, and the Danaman Gallus bang pan the bloody Durden. A scribe beside then and there is led off on the road's code with some fine covered by 6 marks or 9 pins in metalman for the sake of his labour's dross, while it would be only now and again in our rear of our era, as an upshoot of military and civil engagements, that a gynecure was let on to the scuffled for taking that same fine sum covertly by meddlement with the drawers of his neighbour's safe. Now, after all that far-fetched and peregrined or dignant or clear, lift we our ears, eyes of the darkness, from the tome of Liber Lividus and apaisibly ironical, dimmering dunes, gloamering glades, so stretches a forest our Friedland's plain. In neath stone point the pastor lies with his crook. Young Pricket by Pricket's sister nibbleth on return viridities. Amid her rock and grasses the herb trinity shams loneliness. Sky up is of ever grey, and thus too for donkey's years. Since the bouts of he, bear and hairy man, the cornflowers have been staying at Ballymun. The dusk rolls as choosed out Goatstown's hedges, two lips have pressed together them by sweet rush. Townland of twined lights, the white thorn and the red thorn have fairly gayed the May valleys of Knockmaroon, and though for rings round them during the chiliad of penny gangs, the four Morians have brittled the tooth of the Danes, and the oxmen have been pestered by the firebugs, and the joints have thrown up jelly bidded to the Kevinses, and little on the green is child's father to the city. Year, and laugh tears. His pack-sealing butt-nose have quadrilled across the centuries, and whiff now waft to us, fresh and made of all smiles, as on the eve of Kill-all-who. The babblers with their tangas vain have been, confusion hold them, they were and went, taking tugs were, and hung him song toms were, and comely norgles were, and polyfilled fiancés. Men have thawed, clerks of Sorcerer home. The blonde have sought at the brune, has kissed out me and Kelly Peggy, and the Dunkel Dames have counted with the hellish fellows. Who else tongue called out space of Dublin City? And they fell but pong one another, and themselves they have fallen. And still now a nights, and by nights of yore, do all bold Floridas of the field to their shy fond lovers say only, cull me ere I wilt to thee. And but a little later, pluck me whilst I blush. Well, nay, they wilt marry and profusely blush, betroth. And that saying is as old as a hewits. Leave a whale in a while in a wheelbarrow. Isn't it the truth, I'm telling you? The fins and flippers that Jimmy and shake. Tim, Timmy, Dan, Timther, Tam, flippity, flipper, hop. In the name of Annam, this Carl in the copy and pelted thongs apart alone, who the Joe Becker be he? For shaping his pig-made hog's head, shrunk his plod's foot. He hath lactose, his short shins, and oh behold his pectoral, his mamma muscles most mysterious. It is slick and nunch him out of some thing's brain pan. Me seemeth a dragon man. He's almonds on the keep thief be here as come stip as saxil, be it Juniper or February, Maddocks or ale, Brillo, the rampant rise of Parios and Florios. What a core here sort of Mahon. It is evident the Mitchin Daddy. Let's we overstep his fire defences and his claws of slit-sucked marrow bones. Cave. He can perhaps posture us the pillar away the Hercules pillar. Come on, Phil Portable. How's your women blow amongst your? Excuse us, Charlie guy. You tolerate Donsk? You talk to Squeegeon. You speak the English. You phone your Saxo. Clear also. 'Tis a Jute. Let us swap hats and excheck a few strong verbs weak out either yap yas or the bast of bloody Greeks. Jute, Utah. Mutt, Mux, Pleasurad. Jute, are you Jeff? Mutt, some hards. Jute, but you're not Jeff Mute? Mutt, No, only an utterer. Jute. Oh, what is the matter with you? Mutt. I became a stummer. Jute. Oh, what a horrible thing, because... how, Mutt? Mutt. Put the bottle sword. Jute. Whose bottle? Wherein? Mutt. The inns of Dongtar were used ought to be ye. Jute. You, that side of your voice are almost inedible to me. Become a bit skin more wiseable, as if I were you. Mutt. Has a tensie? Oh, Boo, you usurp! I tremble from wrath in my mind when I remember him. Jute. One eye gone black. Bisons is bisons. Let me, for all your hesitancy, cross your qualm with trinket. Here, have Sylvan coin, a piece of oak. Guinnessy's good for you. Mutt. Louis, how wouldn't I not know it? The intelligible grade cloak of Cedric's silky shag carried me the faulty races for one Dublin bar. Oh, grousy. He was poached on in that identical spot. Here were the liveries, Monomark. There were misers mooning Minnikin Pass. Jute. Simply because it's Tasserton pretels. No, wrong, sorry, Shortner. Hey, dumpty the whole bar of our rubbages on the soil here. Mutt. Just how a pudding stone and at the Bruxelles by a river pool. Jute. Hold on, Marshy. With what for an horse like? Mutt. Similar with a bull and a tromp turf. Rux roarum, rex rum. I could snort him of the spumy horn with his woolsy side in by the neck. I am sudden on the Brian Dublin. Jute. Boiled oil and raw honey on me when I can barely forstand a word from stuck to Finnegans such a pat. What is your Rotterdam rotter? Unheard of and unseen. Good after meal. See you doomed. Mutt. Quite a grim. But save a sec. Walk a dun blink roundward this Albert Island. You scold see how all ye plain of my elders, Humphrey and ours, were one whale wimble to peewee all the saltings, were will by city, by law of Isman, were by a droit of signory. Ice flow was from his in the bing to whose finished there pumped. Let air him rum murmur. Mere merge two races, sweet and black, more than rue. Hither cratching eastwards they are insurgents, hence, cool at ebb, they requiesce. Countlessness of live stories have never fallen by this plage. Flick as flow flakes, slitters from aloft like a vast wizard all of world words. Now all are tombed to the mound. Ishes to ishes, erd from erd, pride, oh pride, thy prize. Jute. Stench. Mutt. Feared food. Here and under lie they, large by the small, and every night life, also the strange. Babylon, the great grand hotel with Titlouse, Alp on Earwig, Drucken on Nil likewise equal to unequal in the sound cemetery which is Liebes love. Jute. Small. Mutt. Meld on Liza. By the forest wave behouted. Despond song. And them as Estros mound have swallowed them all. This hour of years, not save brick dust, and being humus the same returns. He who runes may read it on all fours, uxel, nixel, trixel, crumbling, sell me sooth the fair for humbling, humble lady fair. But speak it all so safely, Moulder, being your wished, jute, wished, Mutt, the giant forficules with Amni the fay. Jute, how? Mutt, here is Vice King's grab. Jute, what? Mutt, are you a stone-aged jute you? Jute, I am Tom Thor struck, Ting Mud. Stoop. If you are absent-minded to this clay book, what curious of signs, please stoop, in this aleph bed. Can you read, since we and them had it out already, its word? It is the same told of all. Many messagen nations on messagen nations. Teaken. They lived and laughed and loved and left. For sin. My kingdom is given to the Medes and Parsons, the meander tale, the loss and again of our old Heidenburg, in the days when head and clouds walked the earth, and the ignorance that implies impression, that knits knowledge, that finds the name form, that whets the wits, that conveys contacts, that sweetens sensation, that drives desire, that adheres to attachment, that dogs death, that bitches birth, that entails the ensuance of existentiality. But with a rush out of his navel reaching the reredos of Ramus Baffo, the terricolous vively on view this. Queer, and it continues to be quaky. A hatch, a Celt, and here shared a perquas of which was the cassé, the earth crust, all of ours, furrowards, baggerwards, like oxen at the thorn path. Here's a figurines Billycoo's arm and a mountain and arm and bellicose figurines see here. For Lork, this little effigy is for the fire fig god of flint for all. Face at the east, hoi-fi. Face at the west, hoi-fi. Up, whop, and dump 'em. Face to face. When a parrot so petit does duty for the hollows, we soon go to use a banal for a bit. Here, please to stoop. Our seldom cube petit pays acquire peculiar interest in as little as they are the pellets that make up the Tommy's payroll. Right rank Ragnar rocks it with these rocks of wrangle wrangles rough and go wrong. Wish I did that. Take us for tar that's tucked its toil like tumble traitor trust for vengeance. When a nice old nest it all makes. A midnight horde of objects. Olives, beets, Kimmels, Dollies, Alfreds, Beatties, Cormacs and Daltons. All its eggs, oh stoop to please, are here creakish from the age and all now quite obsolete. And old Wally Wobblers there were the wiggle grass. The snake worms every side, our Durban is swarming in snakes. They came to our island from triangular touch-a-tear beyond the wet prairie, reared up in the midst of a cargan of prohibited pomifrost. But a long-landed paddy whipping him into his garbage cans, cuts that creeps in a pricker in our ears there out a man could quick up or what's that? Some divide and some the lot, but the tally turns round the same battlefields and racketeers and buttlockers.
That was my friend and colleague Richard Harte reading from Finnegans Wake, Chapter 1, pages 13 to 19, recorded live in Toronto on August 31st, 2022. Special thanks to my friends in Norway, Øyvind and Susanna Haga, for advising Richard and me on Scandinavian pronunciations for the dialogue of Mutt and Jute /Jute. Join us for episode 5 in a fortnight when Richard continues with the next 5 pages of Finnegans Wake, including the famous Prank Queen fable. To be sure you don't miss the episode, why not follow or subscribe to this podcast? And for more on One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake project, including transcripts of this podcast and trailers for the films, visit our website at onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is made possible by friends of One Little Goat Theatre Company and the Emigrant Support Programme of the Government of Ireland. Thank you for your support. And thank you to the artists for this episode: Richard Harte, sound by William Bembridge, podcast production by Sean Rasmussen, stage management by Laura Lakatosh, rehearsal stage management by Sandi Becker, directed by yours truly, Adam Seelig. Thanks to our live audience of Pip Dwyer, Kevin Kennedy, Kathy Murphy, Nomi Rothbard, Arlo Rothbard-Seelig, and thanks to our rehearsal audience of Jackie Chow, Jordy Kaufman, Andrew Moody, and Shai Rothbard-Seelig. Thank you to the Embassy of Ireland in Ottawa and the Irish Consulate in Toronto, and to production consultants Kathy Murphy and Andrew Moody. One Little Goat Theatre Company is a not-for-profit, artist-driven, registered charity. To find out more and to join our mailing list, please visit www.onelittlegoat.org. Thank you for listening.